Big Elvis the Chef. I am here, and we are waiting for our guest to arrive. But until our guest arrives, you know, even though I didn't do a confirmation, like, yo, dude, are you sure you're gonna be here? But we had a talk yesterday. I just got so caught up with being a father is no joke, man. Taking care of these children, being a good husband, it's a lot of work, you know? It's no joke, man. Boom. Here I am. And with these glasses, I'll be able to read the chat. But most of the time, I have such a hard time reading the chat. But with that being said, I'm still waiting on our co host. And what we're going to talk about is all things Trump 4 days later from this horrific attempted assassination. What makes it horrific? Well, one of the horrific things is that somebody's brains were all over the bleachers. Never. That's never a good thing. When someone's brains are all over the bleachers, that sucks. It's pretty horrific. People got to see that, and I can't wait for our co-host to come in. Welcome to the chat. Remember to guard your privacy. Bum bum bum. Hold on, let me see something here. Making sure highlight saved to your channel. Okay, that's cool. Waiting for Ulrich. So we're gonna talk all things Trump with Ulrich. We're gonna talk about because remember, Ulrich and I did some street interviews when Donald J. Trump showed up here, New York City. He was in the Bronx, and we were there. Not as far as being able to get past security and see him. He's the modern day Binford. I don't know how to pronounce that word. It seems vulgar. Pusser. Pulsar. Buford Pulsar. Don't know who that is. Educate us, Stephen. Stephen Ladner, how are you, my friend? We got a good American over there. I think they call sheriff that carried a big stick. Oh, from that movie that we talked about on one of the lines. Right. He had that 2x4, and he was cracking heads open with that 2x4. This guy, Buford. Am I pronouncing that well? Right? Very good, very good. Yeah, we're waiting on Ulrich to jump in. Let me just hold on for 1 second. Let me double. Well, I resent him the Kusser is how it's pronounced. No help there, Steve Ladner. Uh, Pusser. Pusser. Well, I just reached out to my co-host again, and maybe he was in the shower, maybe he's taking a nap. I'm not sure. I'm hoping that he tunes in soon enough. How's everyone else out there doing? Oh man. Okay, one more time. Let me try. I'm back. Thank you for being patient with me. I was just trying to see what was going on with the link that I sent out, making sure that I sent the right link. We're talking about the attempted assassination of our 45th president here in the United States, in the United States of America. That's our 45th president. They call him 45, and soon to be possibly number 47. What does that mean for us? Oh, here goes Ulrich. Hold on, y'all. Ulrich just called. He was taking a nap. He fell asleep, and he's like, just waking up from REM sleep. He's like totally out of it. Like, whoa, what's going on? Um, so what we have is possibly he's going to have to tune in another time if he can't pull himself together. He gets up. This guy's getting up at 5:30 in the morning, 6 o'clock, just to because he moved to another state. He's taking on a new curriculum, so they're basically all new teachers have to be part of this training. This summertime training. So he's there all day long, uh, and this is the way it goes. But I did reach out to Daniel B. Possibly Daniel B. will show up. I did send him a link, and this is why people have people. To make sure everybody's on board. I should have been hitting up Ulrich from 5 o'clock when he got out of that school, just to make sure that the conversation we had yesterday would apply today. But it's okay. It's not a big deal. I still appreciate Ulrich, and we will get this co-star thing together, soon enough. Before you know it, these little hiccups are gonna be a thing of the past. See what's going on with Daniel B. I sent him the link, and I'm not sure if it works like that. Let me double check something. Uh, Well, we'll see what's going on. What say you about 45 and what's happened, what appeared to have happened? What say you? We know what the chatter is like out there. We're going to talk about some of the chatter. We're going to also talk about some of the people at the DNC, RNC, that spoke yesterday. They were saying that it was uh, it was a black show. The show that they put on yesterday at the RNC was a black show. What say you on the RNC being a black show? Is that something that you saw? And did you see it looking like it's this all of a sudden diverse group of people? Because I will have to tell you that when George Bush Jr. When he was president, oh my goodness, that whole place was popping with black people. Was it a black show then? When he had the whole place was packed. That was kind of crazy. But what you gonna do? Let me just double check this. Sorry, just give me one sec. I just want to make sure I am doing the right thing here. Okay, we're good. We're good. We're gravy. We've been on 13 minutes, and very little has gotten done in these 13 minutes, and I apologize. Wait to see if Daniel B can come on. Hold on again. And we wait for Daniel B now. I just hit him up with a text that said ETA, so this is coming out of left field, so it's totally understandable that, he still has to get ready. He just can't. Hey, I'm here. Put me on. Did anyone see Joy Reid talk about what is her name? What is this woman's name? Amber Rose. That's who I call the mother. Amber Rose is the mother. She's the slut walk. What is she? She didn't invent the slut walk, but she catapulted the slut walk once she became its grand ambassador, so to speak. And Amber Rose was speaking on her pops and her father. and how her father just didn't understand why she wasn't supporting Trump. And she just went on and on about how, like, you know, I did my research and I realized she didn't say anything of substance as far as like, he did this, he did this, he did that, he did this, he did this. She just basically was like, okay, oh snap, boom. Doc the Surgeon.
The chef.
What's
How
up,
you doing?
dude? How are you?
Good, good. Not
Yeah,
too bad.
I appreciate you taking a moment out of your time for me over here. I know you're a busy guy. You
Mm,
got things going on. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How things going on over there?
Oh
Dealing with
man,
this heat?
oh, I don't even notice the heat. I love it. I don't
All
even
right.
notice it. We're up every morning now, myself, wifey, and the kids, and they're running. I told you that when I was over at your place on for the 4th of July, that
Right, right.
they put it in. First they were doing 4 laps. Now they're doing 7 laps, and on
Oh,
Monday they'll be doing 10 laps. So I got these kids, man, and they're loving it. I mean, Madison, every other day she's so upset and so she's so angry. But listen, I haven't gotten out of the bed before 10 o'clock in many, many years. Because I'm always the first one to say, I don't get out of bed till 10 o'clock. Don't even think about calling me before then. But yo, dude, I am out of the bed. Bed is made, brush my teeth, wash my face, and I'm ready to get out the door by 10:15, man. And which is somebody's like whoop de doo, But for me, that's huge. Okay, this is. Oh, hold on for 1 second. Don't hang up. Oh, I'll deal with this later. I'll deal with this later. Um, because I called Daniel B to come on, and Ulrich was supposed to come on, but he's starting that new gig, so he's
oh,
knocked out sleep. I will have to call him 3 times in a row, and he said, "Oh man, you woke me up. Sorry, man." I said, "I would do it another time, so no big deal." But
what
what we
kind
were
of schedule is he
talking,
on?
huh?
I'm saying, what kind of schedule is he on?
Well, he's up at like 5 in the morning because there's a new school in Philly. He's teaching for a new school out there in Philly. So they're having all new teachers have to put in the whole summer. They can't
Okay.
just, they don't play that. They're not gonna let you just come in when in September and be like, okay, here's your classroom. Nah, they want to make, and then they're like watching him. He's doing these mock lessons so they can see how he teaches. It's like really intense.
So what he needed to do? What he needs the midday nap.
Yeah, that's probably what it is. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then he's been
Uh,
doing a lot of bulking. He's been bulking up because in his new building he has in his new building he has a gym. So
okay.
he's like, he's putting on a bunch of muscle, so he might be tired from working out.
Yeah, no
I don't
problem.
know. How you been?
You've been all right.
You
Been all
looking
right.
good? You looking shiny? You got your hat on, to protect the world,
Uh,
I guess. I don't know, I'm with
trying
you.
to
I'm with
protect,
you.
trying to protect my mind.
Oh, I think you
Yeah.
need aluminum foil for that one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's how that
yeah.
works.
I don't know if the cotton is gonna help. I think you need aluminum foil for
Well,
that.
it's all symbolic. You gotta protect your mind. Whether or not you use whatever you want, but you know, you just gotta
Right,
protect
right,
your out here.
right, 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 right. Yeah, like Nick Cannon, he was doing it with some sort of turban.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You remember the turban he was wearing for
Right,
a
right.
while? Right. Well, today it's just a real simple thing going on where a president was almost assassinated. You and I haven't had a chance to talk about it.
No,
What
we
what
haven't.
say you about the last few days?
It's you know, I didn't know about it until the day after, and so somebody told me about it, and they said what occurred, and immediately what came to my mind was, um, I need to take a look at this thing just so I can see how it played out. And I haven't gonna seen a lot of it. I've seen a couple of different angles of what happened and how it kind of like played out, honestly, I don't know if I'm super impressed.
Hmm.
Um, the, re-
Impressed.
the reason why I'm saying that is, you know, a couple of months ago or a year ago or so, there was another situation where there was um, some aggressive move towards him. His reaction at that time, it was nothing about it was somebody or something like that. But I remember his reaction and the way he came across, kind of like startled and so on and so forth. This is not the same person
Wow.
that would jump
I kind
out.
of remember that. No one is
Remember,
even talking about that.
remember
Interesting.
his reaction back then. So now this new one, you get shot, and now it's the fist bumping and all this other stuff. I don't know. I mean, one of the things is I've always kind of like said we have to be on guard of being played. And you know what? Um, a lot of the things that Trump talks about is things that seems that would be that we can support. A lot of things make sense and so on and so forth. So when his candidacy came along, and he talked the way that he talked, um, I was not one of the people that was offended by that. I thought made a lot of sound decision about how we need to support ourselves and put America first and those
Right,
type of
right.
things. So it fell in line with something that kind of like made sense. Um, you know, and then followed by so much backlash, pushing him, making him almost an outsider. Um, he also said a lot of different things that um, folks that have an understanding of maybe the government may not necessarily be on our side, and there's this invisible group that's working against us, and so he kind of like spoke to that, and the folks that kind of like are on those tilts, they're like, okay, this is guy that we need to watch for. This assassination attempt makes him more of that guy even more. But one thing I've learned recently is that the undercurrent of all of this that's going on with Trump is that this almost draconian thing that's sitting that he's looking to endorse, but we don't really talk about, or that's not talked about a lot either. It's all these
Wait,
measures
wait,
that he
wait.
wants.
What does draconian mean?
Well, when we talk about Big Brother, Big Eye watching over us and limiting what we
Mm.
actually do. So back in 2001, the first round of that first came with Bush. So when Bush came on and we had the towers came down and so on and so forth, he instituted a whole lot of draconian measures. But it was in the eye of
The
safety.
Patriot Act.
Exactly. And that created a lot of issues that we're still dealing with today, where they kind of like, really went into the privacies that we had and so on and so forth, and really
Right.
took away stuff. You know, a second round of that stuff, continued with Obama. Now, with this stuff that's slated under Trump now, it's almost as if he does win and he puts all these things into measure, we'd be asking for those things. So it's almost, where we're championing, our continued reduced freedom. Um, and Biden is no better. So, and I'm saying up to this point, I was more of a Trump supporter, and I'm still am if it comes down to it. But at the end of the day, is either one of those routes is really what's going to really help us get to where we're going. The folks that makes the most sense over the history, and I guess folks could kind of like catch on to this, that makes the most sense. The Green Party folks, when you hear them talk, they make all the sense, but they get the least traction.
The Green
You know,
Party.
the Green Party and all those other parties that's not really support those candidates that come out of those parties. They say things that really pull the best of both worlds, where we have some liberal stuff that makes sense to us about people's rights. We have some fiscal conservativeness that makes sense to us. But somehow, if you a Democrat, you can't pull some of those things away from the Republican that you like. And if you're a Republican, you can't pull away some of the things that from the Democrats that you like. You have to keep this party line that makes no sense. And
Right,
so,
right. We're forced between the two wolves.
right. And then, at the end of the day, we always end up with getting something that you don't want. So you like something, there's a couple of things we like over here, and then there's all this other stuff that we really don't like. And if the other party gets in, the same thing. And we've been dealing with that for years, and for some reason, we haven't been able to pull ourselves away from that to say, it's just not working for us. But overall,
And when
with
you
this
say we, you're talking about who are you talking about? The black, just Americans, period? Is it
Americans,
all of
period.
us, or is it, or are we talking about like a group of people that maybe don't get it? Who, like, in other words, are the people supporting the Green or the Tea Party, all these other groups that have these possibly excellent leaders or could be leaders, are we not able to see them? Because why aren't we able to see that? Is it because the mainstream media is not talking enough?
No, and that's exactly it. I mean, we have a system where it's kind of like controlled. And when I say we're talking about the average person who the power really lies with, and that's the everyday person. The thing is, we don't recognize it because you've been made to feel that your individual view is so inadequate, so dismissive that it doesn't matter. But it is all our collective thoughts that actually make something move forward. So when I say we, it's before we think like, oh, is it just about blacks? But it's everybody. It's
Hmm.
blacks, it's white, it's rich, it's poor, because at the end it's come to a point where you know everybody needs to be pushed into line, and wherever, whatever faction you come from, you're going to feel it. So yeah, and when we talk about these different parties that you just mentioned, it's because of visibility. And those folks, like say for example, even recently, with this election cycle, you had uh, the Kennedy. What's his? For some reason, I can't even think of John
The
F.
one
K.
that,
Jr.
yeah, the one he speaks with that very raspy throat. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Um, so a lot of people are interested in what he has to say, but they refuse to put him in a situation where he could actually debate the issues. So the thing is, we've gotten to a place now where we don't want real debate because there's a fear that, this person may make too much sense, or he may, bring the American people to think about something in a different way. And that's not these things are not being allowed. These conversations that could really make a difference are not really being allowed. We're just being forced to, hey, you go with it. It's a false sense of choice. You know, we have two choices that we're okay with, and we're gonna let you pick one of these two choices.
Right.
Where neither one of them actually makes your point, and sometimes they're arguing or discussing things that you really don't care about. So for example, issues are made for us, topics are made for us that we should focus on and should care about. But meanwhile, my neighbor down the street and people right here in this country, we have issues that we really want to talk about, but it's not being addressed. So, um, so it's a problem. It's a problem. What did you
What,
think
what,
about it?
which part? What you just said, or the original story about what happened with Trump?
No, the original story what happened with Trump.
I'm always looking for those. What's the opposite of truth? And flag football. I'm always looking for that flag football and everything. And I have to honestly thank you for that. You
Mhm,
One time there was this shooting where the police situation where they blew the guy up who was
mhm.
shooting at the police, and you were like, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah, man, the guy they was like shooting," and he was like, "Oh, really? You should really?" And I was like, "Why you acting like that?" And I was like, "Let me." I went home, I looked at it, I was like, "Wait a minute, wait a minute, what?" It's like it looked like just things bouncing like little white dust bouncing off of the walls like they do in movies, and I was like, "Whoa." So I was looking for a lot of that, and what I found, let me tell you what I found interesting was that if we were to stop and ask people, everyday people walking down the street, what do they think about it? They say right away it was faked. It was false flag. It was flag football on the play. And I'm like, These are the people that we, the truthers of the world, have been trying to tell them about all the fake crap that's going on, and they look at us like we crazy. But they secretly have been freaking paying attention, looking at all these things. And it's like, yet if we tell our loved ones and our family, they look at us like we're crazy. But
Mm,
yet this happens. Oh, it was it was what a great performance. I'm
hmm
like, wait a minute. What we saw was people yelling and screaming, yo, there's a guy scaling the building with a ladder and he got a gun with a scope on it.
hmm
And there's several people saying that, and the police were not even moving to action.
So I saw one specific commentary, and I guess this was an eyewitness that was there, and he was like, "Hey, listen, we couldn't see Trump in his delivery, but we could hear him close enough." But and he talks about the area that they're in. He was like, "Well, there's not a lot of building there. There's only several buildings, not anything to overwhelm a Secret Service group." So, and he was kind of like
Right,
baffled these things weren't covered. And then he talked about the fact that they saw this person and they were alerting the officials, pointing to the person like he's right there and so on and so forth. And they were looking at him like they're dumb. And like this, and they said that they should be able to have seen what's happening, but for some reason this thing still kind of like played out. So what I do know is that we have to be able to guard our mind, because the truth is we are in a weakened state where we are sitting in our lives, and then we have this tube, which is the access to the world that we want to believe, and they could tell us anything, you know, and technology is in such a way now that it's so advanced, even the most infallible thing can be made believable if the effort was made behind it. With deep fakes and all these other things, I mean, they could really, make anything come across as, legit. But one of the things now, to be able to pass some of this stuff off, they need to do it with a live audience. And this is where a lot of faults will happen, you know. So if these people weren't around to say this, that part would go over smoother. So all these different things we have to kind of like watch out for. But I've always said we have to ever be more skeptical of the people that's placed in front of us with a loud voice, with a lot of coverage. Those are the folks we have to be most skeptical for, and actually hold them accountable. Um,
hold them to
because
a higher standard. In other words, right?
exactly, and to scrutinize the hell out of everything that happens. And even
Yeah,
then, we
and
might.
and let me tell you, I've scrutinized this filming of this thing. I've spent a lot of hours over and over watching. So if let's say there's a story in this little picture, I might spend 30 minutes just on this little section right here out of the picture, and then I will restart it and then spend 30 seconds on this little section here, and then that little section, and I start to break it all down. And I have to say, I even question myself. Do I want to believe in Trump, that I'm saying that it's not a hoax and it is legit? Because let's just say this. Is a person able to get the drop? See, I always believe that no matter who you are, you can get the drop on somebody. No matter how good their security is, you can get the drop on somebody. And I would like to believe that it was just this incompetence and this lackadaisical mentality, but it's impossible because people have so many compartmentalized jobs that it, to me, looked like it wasn't him involved. It was a setup to maybe take him out, not to necessarily put him in front of us, because I think the country would do like, all right, forget about that. I kind of got distracted by a thought. And what I'm really basically saying is that I think it was real. I think that young man, if it's the same person, was given enough assurances to believe that he was going to get away with this. I think he
But
was put in a room, talked to, and they let him know there's nothing going to happen to you. We got your back. Because when you look at that sniper, when that sniper takes that shot, he pauses for a second from the scope and looks over the scope. And that's when the shots go out. Bang, bang, bang. The guy shoots somebody who's in the way. There's a guy's head is in the way of Trump. He shoots that person, blows that person's head off. That's when Trump turned and looked and tilted his head. That's when the second shot went right through the ear. Had he not turned and tilted his head simultaneously, he would probably not be here. But I'm thinking about that guy with that 50 caliber, the work, the Secret Service, the sniper. Why would a sniper be looking through his scope and then stop to look over the scope and then look back at the scope and take the shooter out? It's almost as if they wanted this guy to get those shots off. Right. It's so puzzling.
the target. Normally, what would happen is I would hit a target by mistake. I want to try to hit the target to get it out the way and then try to hit, what will be a quickly protected target. Why would I do
Right.
that? The thing is this person never going to move? You know?
Well, I think the person's head was just in the way. He's
Yeah.
standing there, and that guy just could not get the shot with the guy's head in the way. So he took his head off, and that allowed Trump to turn and go like this and saved his life.
But here was the thing. What's the chances of taking this guy out and everything stays the same so I can get this clear shot?
What are the trying to take this guy out and they get the clear shot? What do you mean?
What's the chances of me saying, okay, I'm gonna take this guy out and I'm gonna have the time left so I can get a clear shot and take the president out? Now, you
Right,
know,
right, right, right,
the
right.
other thing, I'm not sure, another account that I've heard is that he wasn't shot at all and it was supposed to be some shrapnel or some fragments from something else so that it wasn't the bullet at all or anything like that. So that's one account I've heard. So I don't know how true or not true that is,
I
but
mean that it's very possible. That's how when I got shot, it was fragments from the wall, the metal doorway that flew into my leg. That's still in my leg.
right. So now,
And it's like, yeah, it's very possible that whatever came at his ear was just from the guy missing.
you know, so
Could have
so
been
that's
could have been a brain fragment that slammed against his ear from
you
the
know
guy who got hit in the head.
now the thing is, I guess a big piece of it is the location of the pieces that we're talking about. This person that did get hit, you know, um, how far close away they were from him, So a lot of these things I'm not sure about. I'm sure they probably have the schematics out, how it look. But aside from all that, how many times we've seen this type of stuff play out before? Why is it that somehow the person that always the perpetrator always end up dead before any questions could be asked?
Well, I don't have a problem with that if there's a guy laying on his stomach with a rifle. I want him to get a headshot too. I don't want him
Yeah,
to be I don't want him to be held down and we got to figure out what were you thinking? Why would you do that? And who were you with? And where did you get help
right.
from?
So one of the things about it is that because we go back to the exact same thing again, we have all these lone rangemen that somehow break through a highly protected target and somehow they get this shot, they get into the system, and
Right.
then it's like, so the thing is we could never interrogate any of those things. It just happened to be this person who just happened to do that. which is kind of like weird, But
Mm.
the issue with that is this scenario keeps playing itself out, where this thing happens. What it does do is it keeps keep the door open to saying that we might be being played. You know, um, So my initial thoughts with the rise of Trump and all the stuff that was going on. If there's anything that placed a dent on any of my thoughts against him, is this. You know, Now is it to say that
Wow! Wait a minute! Wait a minute! Say that again.
you know
The
with
only
his
thing that gives a dent in your thoughts from him is this event.
right
These
because
events actually have you thinking less of Trump.
these things too many times to watch him play out again. You know, to say it's just a passing thing, because what does this do? This kind of like sort of making him a martyr. Like, oh, this gotta be the. And then the thing is, it gets to one of those situations where you know what, whether or not they blame it on the because of the Democrats, they have some stuff about what Joe Biden said that he needs to be in the crosshairs and all this other stuff. So they're trying to push this angle on it, to elevate him to this different thing where hey, listen, they were trying to take him out. So now he gets into office. I'm really going to fix things. I'm really blah blah and so on, and come up with that energy where people will be like, well, he's justified because they try to kill him. And now we have this new set rule of BS that we didn't call for and didn't ask for.
Right.
So we have this whole brand new level of law and order that we're trying to put in place. We're setting ourselves up for a problem, and the
Mm.
truth, it doesn't matter on what side of the aisle we're on. I think we've talked about this before with all these systems of government, whether it's democracy, a republic, or we talk about the communists. All these things, at the end of the day, they always move in such a way to centralize the power to the government and take it away from the people.
Absolutely.
Slowly, it goes there. And the thing about it is, it's always been that case with the Democrats or the Republicans, and it's taking away from the people, their ability to choose, their ability to live, and we're giving it to a central group of folks who have neglected their real purpose of being a representative. Because I don't care about your personal thoughts. I care the fact that you're representing the thoughts of the folks that sent you there. So um, you know, everybody have their own opinion and stuff like that. You're there to represent that opinion, not your own opinion. You know,
Right.
that's really it. And the thing is, we've walked away from that, and we have these folks, they're thinking my job is to tell us what to do and to lead us in the right direction. No, no, you're no leader. What you are is a representer. And the thing is, where
Right.
we've mixed these words up, and we've actually, bloated these people's ego, because what you are is a representer. You are there to express the will of the people. That's what you're supposed to do, And I think we've kind of like walked away from that. But
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's truly some sort of like uh what's that called? A popularity contest. Who
yeah,
can who can throw those zingers in and all that kind of stuff, you know? But I don't I look at this as Trump not being involved in any way. And when Trump, you see, there's this thing called fight, flight, or freeze.
okay,
Trump, he went into straight up fight mode after this happened. I think he suffered from tunnel vision. I think when he raised his fist up in the air, he's screaming, fight, fight, fight. I don't think he was able to even see anything around him. All he knew is that somebody shot him and he ain't dead and he's ready to throw down. He's ready to fight.
listen. If I'm not in the tube, you know, if I'm not in the tube, it's like I'm super pumped. Like, yo, let's do it. So I could see the energy that's being drawn from there. But my higher self went to say, pause. Am I being played? Am I being played? And the thing about it is, at this point, the options that exist you know, seems better with the possibilities through him. But the thing is, we have to always be on guard of this marching road down where we're losing more and more of our liberties and freedoms and stuff like that. But the truth is, whether it's one way or the other, they're going to try to push this. They're going to try to push this on us. And the thing is when they push it, are we going to have the will to resist? And the truth of the matter is, if we have so much folks who like, yo, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And then as he pushed these things, I'm championing it. So for example, one of those things is, hey, we got to do this. And say, for example, we got to get rid of the guns. We're going to get rid of the guns.
Right. Right.
What that looks through Trump lens may be something because he is pro-gun, supposedly, but but what we have to kind of like say, he's also was a lot of positions that they hold, even if it's controversial, and he talks against it, he still kind of like ran along with it a little bit. So I remember a lot of folks criticized him, during the pandemic and so on and so forth, because he kind of like said it wasn't as serious as it needed to be, and it was kind of like being overblown. And he held that stance, and a lot of folks in medicine and stuff like that appreciated that, because okay, well, maybe he is onto something to understand what's being done. But at the same time, simultaneous, he's like, oh yeah, I did the fastest job in getting the vaccines and so on and so forth. Like, you kind of like double
Yeah.
playing it,
I gave
so
everybody ventilators. I made sure they all got ventilators. And now we're finding out that 98% of the people on ventilators died.
exactly. And here were the things. So at the end of the day, even though
Wait,
your word,
wait a minute. When I caught COVID, you said make sure nobody put you on a ventilator. You call me if they try to put you on a ventilator. This is what you
right,
told me. You were like, don't, whatever you do, you don't go on a ventilator. That's what you told me when I was sick.
and these folks, so now with him, he said, although his word said something, his policy still took us down the same direction.
Right.
And if it wasn't him in office, whoever that person was, their policy would take us in the same direction. And, I guess, some things need to be said is the fact that at the end of the day, these figures that we elect, or whatever we call it, you know, are they really making the decisions that we think that they're making? So, and
But it's not
there's
we the people.
right.
we
So
the
there's
we the people are not doing it. So you're saying the handlers, the ones who are
right.
Congress, who's really pulling the strings.
So whose interest is really being served? Whose interest and agenda is really being pushed forward? You know, who are we really answering to? Whose problem are we really trying to fix? And who's coming up with the problems to be fixed? Is it really the president? If they're supposed to be representatives, how come the issues of the public is not supposed to really being addressed?
Right.
Their stuff, and then year after year, we just kind of like this stuff slide by and don't say nothing, and just kind of like play the game or the talking points that they're talking about, which may have nothing to do at all. So now, for example, we have this whole thing that's going on in the Middle East and stuff like that, and I have friends who are very concerned about that, and I have many more who doesn't care about that whatsoever. They're more concerned about what's happening with them and and their family and what's happening in their country and stuff. And it's like, not that they don't have concern about human suffering and stuff like that, but before they can really give homage to somebody else's suffering, they want to pay some homage to their own suffering. Um, and I can't fault that. So somebody said the other day about the fact that so much money is being diverted, towards that cause, when the cause is here, is so grand. You know, um, Somebody else made the point about illegal immigrants and so on and so forth, where the reception that they receive with public funds, housing, cell phones, and stuff like that. Citizens of the country can't get that.
Right.
They're shunned and stuff like that. If they want any type of aid, they'll be sent to a overpopulated shelter where they could hardly get any sleep or any space.
Right.
Meanwhile, illegal immigrant is getting an apartment and a phone, so something is wrong. Something is not right. Um,
Well, we're living in a business in a capital. We're living in a capitalistic society. We're living in a business, and these migrants are going to be housed in what will be the projects. These migrants, they're building places for them to live. That's the future projects. That's the future slums. They're building this. I have not been in any way, shape, or form uncomfortable about the migrant situation in any way. I look at this as an opportunity for reparations. The more we create a new bottom, then the easier it'll be to give people that are at the bottom reparations. So I look forward. I look at it as as a positive, because in a capitalistic society, in a business, if you're running America like a business, then there's no way you can give a group of people that are cleaning, sweeping, mopping, straightening up, shipping, logistics, all these kind of jobs that look, you're in the medical field. How many how many people are medical assistants that are not a person of color, a black woman for the most part, you know? It's like you don't see you don't see others fighting for these gigs. And if you were to give this whole group of people a way out of this, then it would just destroy the country. So I look at these Hispanics and Africans and Chinese and that whole all these parts of Asia that are coming into this country. These their children are not going to be able to, like, in other words, they got rid of the Regents exam. The Regent exam is no longer going to be that test in seventh grade, because they know that the children that are coming up, every migrant that came over here that's female, they all were pregnant. They all got pregnant immediately, and they all have children. You see them on the sides of the road with the fruit, and they got their kids strapped to their backs. Then they have the other kid just sitting around watching some sort of TV. These are not going to be the scholars of our future. These are going to be the workers of our future. And people say they're trying to push the black man out, but I say they preparing the black man for the come up. I think so. I think it
no,
can happen.
no, that's interesting. Um, you know, and I do
I've been
agree with
saying this for I've been saying this for a year now.
you. No,
Everyone thinks I'm crazy.
no,
People have cursed me out in email over this.
I agree with you to a certain extent, and that extent is kind of limited to this idea of capitalism. And the thing is, you know, it is uh, it is a grand game. Um, you know, but it
It's a
leads to a
beautiful
big,
system. It's a
yeah,
beautiful system. Value for
but
value.
what it really leads to, it leads to the undermining of humanity, capitalism itself, and that's not basic local capitalism and so on and so forth, but just the grand system of it all, because you do need a bottom, and you do need a whole lot of bottoms for the flourishing of just a few at the top. And the thing about it is, they want you to believe that you could get off the bottom row and you could be somewhere in the middle and you have a grand dream of being part of the top. But the thing is, the game is rigged. It's been rigged. It's always been rigged. It will always be rigged. And the thing about it is, they need you to
Who's
play
the
those
game?
roles.
Who's the game rigged for?
Well, the game is rigged for. Well, let me say it like this: the game is not rigged for me. I know that for a fact. But who is it rigged for? They know who they are. you know. And the thing is, because
Wait a
I'm
minute.
not in
You telling me the guy with that smile, with
right,
those teeth, living in a beautiful home, driving what you drive. making what you make, you don't think that the game was rigged for you?
No. That's just a hack. I was
So
supposed to be.
you were able to hack the game.
That was a hack. And the thing is, how's the game set up? Because at any point I could be yanked for anything. Any of us could be yanked for anything. You know,
In what?
if the,
In what?
if the decision is made, So for example, let's go back to Trump, right? So we have this guy, supposedly billionaire, supposedly ex-president, supposedly so influential, and even in this climate, you know, they could F with him over BS that they trump up and they bring up and so on and so forth. And have him spinning around in the court system and allegations and bringing up you know grand juries to indict him over nonsense and so on and so forth. If we could do that, you know, when if you can have so much monetary influence and so on and so forth, and that can still happen. What happened to the guy who's still living between paychecks and stuff like that? Whatever the optics may be on the outside, and whatever the titles may be, and so on and so forth. So this game, capitalist game, it gives us the illusion of living life and being grand and so on and so forth, so that they could set up these levels. And the thing is, we could have levels 1 through 7. Like I'm at level 6, I'm doing great, and so on and so forth. But
Right.
there's a whole game. So to the folks that have this thing in mind, the levels are the control tactics. The levels are the bottom. Whether you're at 1 or 7, y'all can fight it amongst yourselves. That's your business. But at the end of the day, we have our thumb on all of you. you know, um, and what it does is we're living in this world that is um, so so grand. There's not a need for missing. There's not we don't have to be lacking. We don't have to live in an impoverished way where it's reduced resources. But that's how we're made to feel. The thing about it is there's enough space and land for all of us to really enjoy ourselves.
Oh,
But
of course.
they create this space so we could be at kind of like, I gotta get up. And me being able to get up have to do with, this person not being able to get up. So we create this thing where it's anti-humanity. But the truth is, there's enough for all of us to be fine. But that's not the approach that we're kind of like having. That's not our thinking either. And, the idea of capital is to get us to buy into and believe into getting and accumulating things that we actually don't need for our, for our humanity to grow. you know it's kind of like band-aids on feel goods, and I get this car and I get this and so on, but none of that stuff really adds to what we are. And capitalism in such a way you know grandize the self and take away the humanity out of the stuff, because now most of us are more interested in accumulating things and being able to show what we have materialistically, as opposed to saying, hey, listen, I want to try to have 15 kids. Matter of fact, if somebody talk about having 4 or 5 kids, it's like you have a lot of kids, you know. But the thing is, we've shifted what really matters to us. If we're talking about like, so as a man or a guy and stuff like that, your legacy and so on and so forth, the thing that you can only really leave, you know, is what you left as far as to your offsprings. That's
Right.
what you can leave. But now they've gotten us really thinking like, hey, listen, I want to build all this wealth and I want to give it to the 1 or 2 kids that I have, if that.
Right.
But
And yeah, I was gonna say, and they even promoting not to give your kids anything. You
right.
know? Yeah, yeah.
So
That
where does all that go? So that, hey, what the funny thing is, where does all that stuff go back to if you don't give it to your kids?
government.
It goes back to them. So we're playing this
They
silly.
get it all. Right.
And the thing is, the only thing they can't take, is humanity if we could protect it. And the thing
Right.
is, the more humanity that we have and create, the harder it is for them to kind of like navigate, because each of these individuals, they are imbued with their own rights, but they get their initial lead from you as to which direction they should go and how they should believe things. So we've given up a whole lot in what we're supposed to do and try to give our kids and stuff like that. And then we're handing that over to another group of people to tell them what to think, what to believe, and so on and so forth. So that's why I love this thing that you're doing with the kids. I mean, the homeschool. I mean, I don't think there's a better thing that you and Tasha could have done than, homeschool these kids. And
Thank
then
you.
the thing about the you see it in their intelligence, in their inquisitiveness about things, about what's around them. Like, in other words, something is not going to go by without them making sure they understand what the hell's going on. You know, they want to take a second and look, whereas other kids like, it blows over their mind. Just like most of society, stuff is happening that they know is weird or whatever, but they just kind of like, I'm just going to go about living my life. Um,
Seriously.
and unfortunately, living that way causes you to not really have a life.
Right.
So um, where do we go? I mean, it's rough. It's rough.
Wow. I totally agree. The thing that you said about the homeschooling and all that, it was interesting that uh, at the RNC, they had a few speakers up there. And one of the speakers, he kept talking about school and how he was saying how too many children have the ability to get a private school, whereas him and his counterparts were all in these public schools learning nothing, having a
Hmm.
horrible life. But no one mentioned homeschooling. And
Hmm.
homeschooling has there's a huge shift in people that are homeschooling right now. The numbers, I think
Oh
North
yeah,
Carolina is like the biggest, like I think it was like over half in North Carolina itself. It was just so many
really?
different, it was crazy how many people are homeschooling out of North Carolina. And so many people in the United States of America has shifted from these public schools, because it's more than just drag queen day. It's more than just, for me, it was also um, the the school shooter alerts. They were banging on the doors, banging on the walls, having the children huddle in these corners, promoting this fear, and then they never would tell the parents when this thing was going to happen. So my kids, I told the principal, listen, whenever you're going to have a active shooter drill, let me know. I won't have my kids here. I don't want my kids to be afraid to come into the school. But he said, "Oh, I don't know when it happens. I get called later throughout the day, and I'm told what to do. By
Hmm.
the archdiocese. This my kids were in Catholic school. I think it was a
Hmm.
cool foundation for them. But one of the biggest problems we had in the Catholic school with my daughter was that at 4 years old, she developed a lesbian relationship with a fellow student, and we're talking about this is a child who's 5, 6 years old 5, 6 years old. She was in first grade, second grade, and the teachers are calling us and saying that my daughter is caught up in the closet, passionately kissing some girl. And then I find out that the girl's mom is a stud. So this girl's mother is a stud, and this little girl goes to school, and now she's preying on my daughter, and it's changed my daughter for life. All the girls around here where we're at, they all claim to be bisexual from the age of 10 years old. It's out of control in these public schools. And I just had enough. I was just like, you know what? And then, of course, they wanted to give my children the shot, and they had them masked up in the schools, and they were every 3 days there was like 3 4 days you couldn't come to school because some staff member had someone who had COVID in their home or something like that, so no one could go to school. It was becoming so chaotic, so distracting. And then the situation that happened with my daughter, I was like, you know what, we're out of here, we're going to opt out of this. I remember them calling me and trying to get me to reconsider giving my children the shot and the jab and all that. But like, look at all the
Hmm.
information that's coming out now with all these pharmaceutical companies that were like, yo, we will never sell this product again. We don't know, we're really like, we're sorry.
We got we've seen this played out so many different times, and then we have to remind ourselves of the straight faced in which the information was given, the
Right.
absolute information was given, only to backtrack now. And then we have to also talk about the liability that was associated with that. No liability whatsoever, you know. And the thing is, we accepted all this. And the question is
No
like,
one
well,
held
why?
no one held responsible. No one could be sued. No one could go to jail. Nothing.
And not only that, some of the folks that dare talked about it, they suffer repercussion for it. Some folks that acted, they suffer repercussion from it that they deal with to this day, you know, despite all this stuff coming out, you know. There
Right.
are people who lost position, lost jobs, and so on and so forth, behind this. And then even after all that occurred and provided all the information, it was still kind of like a sorry. Well, that's what we were told to do, and then nobody know who the we are. So similar to what
Right.
you're talking, there's this thing of tolerance that we've come to accept, and I'm not sure whether or not it's the best thing or not. This idea of tolerance, we're being called to be so tolerant of things that we don't tolerate. You know, there's a difference between saying, somebody can choose to live and do whatever that they want to do. But where's that line of tolerance comes into play? And this is when I say we're living in a society that's too congested. If we are in a system where our views are so spewed from each other, that means our society has just gotten too big. So in other words,
Mm.
towns in these states that we are just overpopulated because the biggest downfall is to be in a space where you live around countless people who share a completely different view from you. That's not how you were meant to live and thrive. You know, that wasn't the calling. And the thing is, it's fine if somebody want to live differently. The thing is, we don't need to be in the same space. So now, if somebody in the natural world will continue to evolve, what's not natural will die away. You take that however you kind of want to take it. But the thing about it is, there's no need to fight against what you believe is that will ultimately be, in humanity's best interest. But if that's what you choose to do, so be it. But the thing about it is, I cannot set up simultaneously, the playground for you to continue to expand yourself. You know, so that becomes the thing. And the truth of the matter is, um, I have a lot of friends um, who are of that persuasion, who's LGBTQ, and for the most part, they think the way things are being played out is overplayed.
Right.
They think it's
That's my
much.
experience too. That's my experience too.
And, and here was the thing: I haven't found a parent or any of those any people in that community who is where is it coming from? Who's pushing the curriculum onto the board of education? Where is it coming from? You know, um, and all these things,
Yeah,
undermines
like
what the
the
family.
Common Core and all these places, these are coming from these billionaires that have
Yeah,
these ideas and they have these little wars to decide how we should learn and how our brain should learn. And they're, to me, from looking at the curriculum, and my wife is doing, she's the homeschooler for the children. To me, what I've come across, or what I've come up with in my mind, is that they're trying to get you to believe that you're not smart enough, and they need enough people not believing that they're smart enough, so that they can just like keep them in a position of just whatever that position is, and then like put them on a check. Like, you know, you're not smart enough. You know, you can't keep up with AI. You know, you can't keep up with what's going on in the world. You don't feel smart. You feel stupid because when Jimmy went over there and he had 50 of these things and then he took away four and then he moved around the corner, went up the stairs and around the corner and then he ended up having 32. How did that happen? I want you to write it down. Show me your work. All that stuff is ridiculous. They want children to feel stupid. They want children to feel like, damn, I'm just gonna go get me a job at Wendy's. I'm just gonna go sell some drugs. I'm just gonna, work Uber. It's like they're creating this whole new world of children that are gonna grow up to feel stupid and not, even try. I think it's done on purpose. The curriculums are trash. I don't trust any of these schools. And I appreciate the praise on me homeschooling because I I know my children are critical thinkers. I know my children are out of the box critical thinkers, super smart, can read, write, arithmetic, all that stuff, and they don't need all that common core silliness and shots and to be made to feel like that sexuality has to be explained at 12. Like, what? I knew that I like girls, of course, but to ask me at 12 years old, like, to figure out choosing genders and allowed to take these blockers, these puberty blockers, without telling my parents, it's out of control, man. And like you said, my family and friends, my favorite uncle, Edwin, LGBT community. He was the guy that was the feminine guy walking through Brooklyn and never had a problem. He could throw down with them hands if somebody has something to say, or just leave him alone. He's a good guy. He's like a social worker. And he calls them the gay mafia. He's like, this gay mafia wants me to feel bad because I don't have a husband and children. He's like, what? He said, oh, and mind you, he's like 10 years older than me, and I'm 50. So he's just like totally disgusted by what he sees going on in the world with the all these different acronyms and all that kind of stuff. Not acronyms, but all these different like genders and all this kind of like non-binary and all this kind of. He's just like, yo, this is ridiculous.
Mm.
So I know what you say when you said that. I
You
know what
know,
you mean. In other words.
we've dropped the ball. I mean, we've dropped the ball as a Generation X. Especially a lot of the parents also, in the sense that we bought into this more than previous generations as far as the educational system, letting them lead the way, and a lack of confidence in what we could try to do for our own children. When we talk about 100 years ago, 150 years ago, those families, you know, it was expected that my child is going to learn the things that I learned. And I trust that
Mm.
survive, because why they going to survive? Because I survived and my parents survived and their parents survived. We've been going strong for 1,000 years. So last thing we need is your school to say, well, you need this so you could move on. And we've kind of like lost that. If And the truth of the matter is, if you have 12 generations of idiots, then you've learned your idiocy in such a way that you could thrive. And you can keep on passing that on if you're actually been around for that long. So um, we've been made to feel inadequate in what we know, and that we have to play a part for something else. The thing is, we moved our attention and focus from you know building our family and our family's dreams and hope and legacy, to building somebody else's family dream and legacy through a corporation or something else. That's somebody else's dream that we've sent our kids to go help, build. So now, if I was a lonely shoemaker and I made two or three shoes and I only had 4 or 5 customers, and but they were consistent, I was able to keep my family together with that. If I had a child, they were going to be a shoemaker, but they were going to build on what I built on and build on my skills, and they're going to continue that line of customers that I had. But the idea is, by the time you get to the 12th generation, we're all living very, very, and we've learned through what identify our family and what we do. We're the shoemakers, and that's who we are, and that's what we do. And if you're my child, you're a shoemaker, and that was always the thought, and that we thrived off of that. But at some place, I even bought into this idea that, well, I'm gonna have the child, and you know what? They should be free to go explore the world and be whatever they want to be. I don't want to limit what they're supposed to be. I want them to go out there. No, they came through me to get my experience, not to open it up
Right,
to every experience. And
right,
that's,
right.
you know,
Yo,
so
I had a friend. You know this friend of mine, and we're no longer friends, but we were friends. And he told me that he did not want the life that he lived and all the mistakes he made for his daughters to make. So he's like, they're gonna just do their own thing. I got one doing this and one doing that. And I'm like, so everybody's a one-off? Like they were supposed to take all the mistakes that you made and flip it and just like step up. And he just was like, nah, I don't want him to go through what I went through. And I was like, wow, like this is like the perfect time for you to have, you know, your children involved in your business. So it reminded me of like these, like, you see these corner store guys. They own a corner store and their children hate it. They don't even want to. They don't. The children go work for somebody and punch in the clock before they ever try to take over their father's corner
mhm.
store or something like that. Like they just saw all the ulcers and the headaches instead of saying, "I know what causes the ulcers and the headaches, and I'll do it this way."
Mhm.
And then here's another problem. You got a lot of fathers who don't want to pass the reins to their children. They want to hold on forever and they don't trust their kids. I'm like, wow.
Well, the
And
thing about it's all part of that process. You know, we've created the teenager. You know, this
right.
rebellious human being that becomes in our house at a certain age that we're expected not to see eye to eye with, and all these other things. And it's partly because we sent this young person out since they were 6, 7 to go pick up
Yeah,
some other info to come back.
exactly. Exactly.
So it's almost like we're creating the situation that we're trying to avoid. You know.
There's someone in the chat says something about homophobia. And I don't think they know what phobia means. Like nobody's afraid of anyone like that. I hope they're not saying that we
Oh,
are in any way homophobic because we're having a discussion about how our gay family and friends are like, they're sick of what's going on. That's not homophobic. That's a conversation. And that was done by
it's
Kelly Keegan.
what is homophobia? I mean, so what am I? Am I homophobic? I don't mind at all. I mean, I have gay friends, gay friends that I know. I have, people that I'm very close who have gay children, you know, and I'm completely, of in a good space. So it's not, any, and there's not any ill feeling towards that at all. Now, do I think that's the best thing for humanity? Do I think that is, is that the prescription I would subscribe to humanity? That we all should be this? No, it's not. And for me to say that doesn't mean that I'm homophobic. I'm saying
Right.
that, um, for the world that I see, that I believe in, that I think I can thrive, I don't think that is the subscription that we should abide by. Quite honestly, if it is the subscription we abide by, we would cease to exist. That's pretty clear. You know, the
Right.
thing about it now, do I want that to thrive by that by the efforts to pluck away our children at a very young age where they haven't, developed their minds yet to say, well, I want to try to do this. Do we think that's a good idea? You know, so um, so this idea of homophobia is it's silly. But here was the thing: that's where being tolerant becomes too tolerant because now we get to the point where you shouldn't even question it. So that's where we at. Or you shouldn't say anything about it. Almost to the point that I need to champion it to say that I'm okay with it. I should offer it
Which,
as a choice. I should offer the choice to my children to say I'm okay with it.
Yeah, let's talk real quick about, let's say, my daughter, right? My daughter's
Yes.
she was 5, 6 years old in first grade, second grade, and she got turned out by the child of a stud. So now my daughter is 11 years old, and she is showing huge signs of homosexual mentality, homosexual desires with girls. She's uncomfortably hugging girls. She's trying to dance. When the song comes on, she wants to be like grinding behind a girl. She's like appears to have a crush on a 15-year-old girl. She's 11. And I have to deal with the reality that it's a good chance that my daughter might be part of this community. And I am not homophobic when I tell my daughter, you do that with your husband. You hear me? I said, I see how you're acting. I see what's going on, but you can do that with your husband. You can have a whole life, and because I asked her, do you want to be a mom? And she's like, yeah, of course, I want to be a mom. And I'm like, okay, well, if the way you're acting, you're not going to be able to be a mom. You're gonna have to. You're gonna have to basically get you a husband and have him understand that every once in a while, y'all can have other kind of fun together. Do I explain the fun and get into details like that? I'm like, no, but I want her to know that the husband is going to be the leader in her life. And if she has these tendencies, it can work to a very healthy relationship. Like they can, if I had LJ telling me every 6 weeks we can get a girl, I would not be opposed to that. She just happens to be super hetero and she's not into it. But, my so to call me homophobic is not cool because I might be seriously having some situation like that in my own home, and I just, I have to recognize that it pisses me off that that stud sent her daughter to school and didn't say to that daughter, listen to me. You see what mommy does in the house? You don't be doing that outside of the street. You're too young. You shouldn't even be thinking about stuff like that. That conversation never happened. She sent her child to to not a public school, but to a Catholic school, and that child coerced my daughter into this intimate relationship where they were even threatening each other, where they would be like, "If you don't kiss me, I'm not going to be your friend." And that kind of went on and it became back and forth. So my daughter would even be pissed off if she didn't get the attention. So now they both playing this game, and it's unbeknownst to my wife and I that this is even something that we should have discussed with my daughter before she went to school, is that there's going to be girls out there that are going to try to kiss you. And this is a 5 and 6-year-old, and the damage has already been done. The damage has already been done. I'm not happy about it. That doesn't make me homophobic because I'm like, yo, what the F, man? That parent of hers needs to be like socked in the eye for this. But there's nothing I can do now. Now I have to deal with the reality that my daughter might be this way. But I want her to know that you do that with your husband. You don't do that on your own. Because,
And it's
yeah,
so, so this is the right that people have. So you as a parent have the right to guide your children in the direction that you think is the most prominent. And another parent have the right to do the same thing. The idea is encroaching those rights on other people's kids. That's the thing. And you know, part of that is on us because the minute we open our kids to these spaces, we're inviting other people's thoughts and belief into it. And now it's gotten so egregious with the public schools, they're pretty much telling you, this is what the kids need to learn. And
oh, yeah.
there's some parents stepping up and saying, well, no, that's not what I want my kids to learn. And ultimately, I think humanity, you know, at the end of the day, always autocorrects itself. You know, um, we talk about whether we're talking about politics, whether we're talking about children rearing and things like that, it's going to autocorrect itself. And as you talk about with North Carolina, people are going to start to recognize that influence, and they're going to start to pull themselves back because ultimately we're just kind of like losing ourselves. We're losing ourselves in this abyss of trying to be, normal. That none of us are normal, you know. Um, and normal is a very unique, you know, intimate thing onto your family. So we have this idea that our families are supposed to be mirror each other's and things like that. And the truth of the matter is, your family, is a cult. You know, my family is a cult. Somebody else's family is a cult. You'll have your own little set belief that's within the house. That's just kind of like the way that you operate, and that's normal and that's healthy. The fact that we think that if you jump into my family, that family, we're doing the exact same thing. There's us trying to be part of this grander thing that really hasn't really helped us overall. And
Right.
now grand thing is for all the children to question their sexuality, and that's not normal.
Right.
That's not
Right.
home. You know.
Right. I always knew I wanted a girl. Never ever
Mhm.
did I remember when the girl told me, I told her I really liked her. She's like, yeah, I like you too, but you're gonna have to get a little flyer than the way you dress. I was like, damn. So I started figuring out how do I get some money? I need some new sneakers or something, like that. They were very motivating to me. I never had a guy wish something and I was like, oh, I gotta go get it. Never even thought about that,
That's
and
the
it's
thing.
just
And we don't have to, you don't have to apologize about the natural order of things. That's natural order of things. You know, um, that's the way it's expected to go, and that's the way it'll go. The majority of the time. Are there outliers? There are outliers. And whether or not the argument will be made, well, it's biological or it's whatever, whichever it is, it doesn't matter, and it's okay. You know, but that is not, the that is not the norm, and we can't start to pretend like it is a norm. It's different. And then more broadly speaking, it is a norm that doesn't carry itself. And I'd like to say this. Interesting. I had a conversation with I'm a gay person, and I do believe um, there are um, some of the most talented, um, creative, unique amongst us. And I think that faction is to speak to something. I think there's something that they're actually meant to bring to humanity, and it may not necessarily be to procreate, but part of that is probably to be able to work in their area of greatness and focus on what they're supposed to bring to the world, because you recognize the artistry, the creativity that comes amongst a lot of folks within that group. It's for something. It's meant for something. So it's not that we all kind of like needed, and there's something for them to add. And that addition may not necessarily be, procreating and stuff like that, but there is a grander a grander information that they're supposed to pass on. Whether or not they're able to tap into that and what that is and express that. And I think for a long time, it's a fight for their identity. And I don't know whether or not that's also a ploy to make, hey, listen, you're gay, should have all the rights and so on and so forth, to take it away from what that greatness is that they are supposed to give to the world. So they spend all their energy fighting for gay rights and for gay marriages and stuff like that. Where, like your uncle, he didn't even care to get married or have but then they try to make that his fight.
right,
Like, that's not my fight. I'm trying to do something else. I'm trying to dance. I'm trying to
right,
whatever. So it's to talk to the greatness of that group and what they're supposed to bring to the world, and to try to figure what that is. Because there is something to be given, because it's not by mistake that level of creativity lies with that group. You know, is so in other words, it's a norm for somebody of that persuasion to be creative.
right.
So
It's not
so
a
what the
shock. It's not a shocker when they're
right,
creative and could turn a situation out. Whatever, whether it's doing a party or writing a book, doing a party, dressing, organizing, logistics, all these kind of things. Yes,
Yeah.
our issue is the pushing on our children things that they never would have thought about, never would have even
And
considered.
most of them, well, let me reword it a different way. I haven't known of one uh, who's children. You know,
Right.
try to
They are disturbed by that.
yeah,
It's these hetero teachers in these schools that are promoting an agenda. It makes me feel like an assassin.
mm,
When that assassin gets that job, this assassin doesn't even know who he's working for. At least in all the good movies and all the good books, this assassin gets that text message, or he gets some sort of, how Mission Impossible, the message would destroy itself. They don't even know where they're getting these messages from. So you have all these hetero people that are pushing this agenda. Like, where are you getting these emails from? Where are you getting this curriculum from? Why? What? And yo, dude, they are pushing this on children to take
so
these blockers and all kind of craziness, man. Wow, puberty
so
blockers.
so
As
interestingly
a
enough,
doctor, what is the danger in that? What do you know about that?
as far as with the blockers and stuff, I
Yeah,
mean, think about it, short term or long term, it is not natural. You're you're messing with a system that's supposed to run very nicely, and you've just interject and really just disrupting it. And once you disrupt it, you know, it's very difficult for it to get back on track. So when we're talking about these, undeveloped minds making these decisions outside of their guardians, approval, and they could screw themselves over with that, the ability for them to get back on track will hardly ever be the same, if ever gets to any.
really.
So the thing about it is, if I'm a young man who decided to use blocker to stop my testosterone and so on and so forth because I think I want to be more feminine or be female, and then I decide to change my mind when I'm 18 or 19, it's not like I'm able to switch it off and I'm gonna be back to normal. You know, there's a long process that comes to any type of normalcy, and your ability to be fertile, have gone down, by folds. So, and it's an attack on the family at the end of the day. And even when we engage those things, we're going to see the output of it. What I was getting ready to say earlier with I was going to talk about Trump a little bit. You know, he, you know, from the last I've heard, he's for taking that out of the schools and don't believe it to have a place to do in the schools and so on and so forth. So that part, and what we recognize is that these the talking points of both the left and the right that are championed are the express views of the those represented of the people. So the stuff that people like that talk about Biden is stuff that the people want. The stuff that Trump taught is stuff that the people want. So this idea of them splitting the stuff up, it's almost like it's a grand wizard who's saying we have some BS to get across, and there's some good stuff. So we're gonna give both sides some of the good stuff and put some of the BS on both sides. So listen, if you want to help people and stuff like that and get government cheese, you're gonna have to support no guns. You know, if you want to get the out of the out of the elementary school and so on and so forth, um, you're gonna have to this plate of food about a situation or a candidate who just takes all the things that we actually do want and push it forward. And the ones that do talk that way we never hear them, or they never get the light of day or any significant coverage, to get through the process.
Right.
Um, you know, we talk about how we got this far, and like even in medicine, you know, you can't so much as get a free dinner now from a pharmaceutical company because for fear that you'll be influenced on your decision making.
Right.
But yet, you know, you know, these corporations are raining pissing money on these people, and we're thinking that they're not going to be influenced. And yet somehow, uh, the very stringent rules about, hey, listen, well, we can't really have the doctors, get funding like this because that's going to compromise their thinking. They're the same ones that open it for themselves. Well, of course, they could give me $2 million. I'm not going to think that. I'm going to make the decision right down the line. I'm not going to let
Right.
them. And the thing that can only happen because we allow it. We, the public, say it's okay that you going to make that decision, and we're going to be okay with you making that decision. As opposed to if we really, stopped, that type of influence on the Congress folks, and a whole lot of different levels, the decision will be more authentic. It will be more representative of the people that voted them in. You know, um, we just, we've said this in the past. We've come a long way. You know, over these past 250 years, we've come a long way, and now we're here, only to realize that we went the wrong way.
I like that. I
You
like
know,
that. And this is coming from a board certified MD. Wow,
you
that
know.
says a lot. Well, it says a lot when we have a board certified MD saying we've come a long way, but now we're starting to realize we might have went the wrong way. Wow, that's a show
And
in it.
so,
That's a whole show in itself. That statement right there. And when you say we, were you talking about the black man or you talking about humanity?
humanity, and the thing is, you know, the black man and humanity is kind of like synonymous because what we've kind of like done is, use, if we want to say the black man as the pillar, as the example, you know, all of it is kind of like set there as the shining light on the mountain to dampen or to highlight or to whatever, because to a certain extent it's going to set the tone. You know, that group of folks, they're going to set the tone. The gift with the folks of color and stuff like that is that they're able to set the tone to a certain degree. They do capture imagination. They do set the precedence and the creativity. So if they start to do a talking point or a dance or something like that, the world is going to follow. So the thing is, of all these great folks, of all these folks, if they could be intercepted and then be um, joked to go a certain direction, then the same thing happens. So we have these creative artists. For them to make some money, they got to rap about bullshit and nonsense. So if what's going to get me on to get this money is talk about hoes and so on and so forth, that's what I'm going to do. And then that's what it is. And that actually permeates the rest of our society. And before we thought like, oh, it's going to be a black problem. But, it's as much of a problem as it is in a Caucasian problem because it catches everybody. That's the
Right.
thing that it does.
Because the
So,
technology is moving so fast.
right.
Yeah, the technology
So
is moving so fast. All the girls sound the same. You know, it's like all the girls are getting their lips and butts done. Nothing we can do about it. They all sound the same. They don't even have to speak the same language. They have the same cadence everywhere. It's just so bizarre. You're right. Doc, I thank you for coming on short notice. You are appreciated for that. It's been about an hour and 40 minutes. I'm gonna have dinner with the family now. And so I'll be saying goodbye soon just to go eat with my kids and eat with my
no,
wife.
Andre, I'm about to get into a little reading and stuff like that. I want to complete for the night myself.
Yo,
But
we're having salmon tonight. We're having
Oh
salmon
yeah.
tonight. You could come over and get some. I have it down on the barbecue grill. I'm smoking the salmon, and it's
Oh, nice.
wild caught king salmon. So you're only
Oh,
30
that's
minutes
good.
away. If you want to come too, you got to play, brother. All
All
right,
right,
and they're
cool.
like, and no exaggeration, they're this thick. I'm gonna take pictures of it. So if you like
Uh,
salmon this thick, and they're salmon steaks, they're not the fillet.
right.
All right, but go ahead. So you get the last word. What's up?
Well, last words I was going to come through. I thought I was going to stop in for a minute and be like, "Hey, what's up?" But most of our talks go off like this. But it's never ending.
Yeah,
You know, another day. And the truth of the matter is, you know, and while we're here, we just have to do um, the best to our ability.
I like that. You appreciate it, Doc. All right, we'll talk. All right, man.
Talk to you later.
Peace.
All right.
All right, DocDoc the Surgeon tuned in. Hold on for 1 second. That was Daniel B saying that he was trying to log in and couldn't get on. Premium Black discussions. Yeah, I don't think it's worth it. Daniel B. Hold on, y'all. There you go. Yeah, no sound. I'm sure you can hear me now, but you couldn't hear Daniel B. I love you. Thank you for tuning in. Premium Black News. I'm probably going to have another show tomorrow with Ulrich. We're going to talk more about his take on the president and what's going on. We see that the doc, his take on it was more like, is it even true? And also doing some street interviews in a few days, getting that done. I love you. Gonna eat some dinner.